All right. Hello and welcome to the final fabulous panel of day one. We are going to be continuing the conversation about virtual reality and augmented reality with some fabulous panelists here, many of whom you've seen today, and one of which you have not. So we'll start off with some quick intros and then really dive in. Alfred, why don't you let everybody know what's up?
What's up? My name is Alfred Goldberg. I'm president of the Americas of Absolute Mobile Solutions. That'll be rebranded as Absolute Marketing Solutions. We're a digital marketing agency, initially specializing in mobile technology going back to the 90s with the Palm Pilot. And these days we're doing everything from video, web, social media, pretty much a lot of the same stuff HD does. Some things we follow behind them, keep a good eye on them. These guys are great. Virtual reality is one that we've explored and lately been doing a little bit more in. Our video production unit specifically is doing a lot more 360 video, spherical video, and trying to create campaigns around it. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but I do believe we're in the infancy, and that's why I'm excited to be on this panel to explore the future of augmented reality and virtual reality.
Awesome. Gabe, anything you want to add for context for this panel in addition to what you said today?
Sure. So I joined the VR apps team at Facebook a few months ago. So I've been focusing in the past few months on how to transition between the traditional product design practice to a new medium, virtual reality. More specifically, we're in charge of more platform agnostic VR experiences like 360 videos and 360 photos across Oculus and Facebook.
Awesome. I feel like you really just had the nugget, but is there anything you want to throw in there as a additional?
Not too much I need to add yet. I mean, you heard the whole thing, but yes, we're doing a lot of 360 video as well, and also a little bit of app programming too. So we'll get more into that.
Great, cool. Context for why I'm the one sitting here. So I moderated a panel on virtual reality and augmented reality in LA back in July, and it was really the first sophisticated conversation I had been a part of and really fell in love with it. I don't think I got it until then, and I had 7 fabulous gentlemen next to me all creating content and making the hardware and the software to make it all happen, and it just fit. It was like, oh my gosh, I've been trying headsets, and I come from the hardware land, so I am predispositioned to be biased and judge things based on their hardware more than their software, just given my trade. And the hardware, especially, we were just talking about this in the green room, is very much at an infantile stage. It will get so much better than it is right now. I'll just get that out there for everybody. We're not going to be tethered in like dinosaurs, to a computer for a long time. But it's really necessary right now because of the barriers and the challenges of stitching together all of that information. You're literally getting 4x, 6x, 8x, 16x the information you're getting from a single device when it's capturing content in a traditional media format. So since then, I've been completely obsessed, tried just about every headset there is, and almost every experience that at least appeals to me. I'm not into the VR porn thing, I just gotta say, but there's definitely an enormous market for it, and I think it's awesome. But one of the things that I really hope we can talk about today is not just where we are now. I think you did a really great job, Sean, of talking about where we are now and really getting the audience up to speed. And I would really love to talk about why we're all excited about it, why you guys are in it, and where we're going to be when, essentially. So first question is, when did you know, so just we'll do it in 2 parts. So when did you know you wanted to be working in this? What is it about virtual reality that just like hooked? And then at what point did you realize you could actually make a business out of it and shift your focus to that? Gabe, why don't we start with you since you're fresh in the VR app space?
Yeah, so for me it was fairly recently. It's this year, so no more than 3 months. I was introduced to VR, and for a long time I've been a fan of gaming and film, and VR seems to be like a really perfect kind of amalgamation of those 2 things, because it really takes storytelling into an interactive medium, and it challenges what a director point of view is, and it just kind of flips content creation on its head. So it was really exciting to me to join that area, and following that, the kind of challenges and constraints that means for how to design in VR, and what are the considerations to take now that we no longer are limited by this rectangle in space, and we can actually create environments. That's one of the things that really drew me to this area.
Nice.
I wouldn't necessarily say I'm hooked. I'm very interested in it, but we were in the mobile space very early, and I would say I got hooked into that. I've always been a big science fiction fan, and when the Palm Pilots made their debut in the United States, I thought, wow, this is the future, and I'm going to own it. And there's a lot of ups and downs between the Palm Pilot and the iPhone, and now I'm a little bit more cautious before I get hooked by anything. I play with everything in the office. It's a big issue that I spend money on toys all the time just to check them out, and then they end up in a drawer like my Google Glasses and a million different smartwatches. But augmented reality, a little more expensive, a little bigger investment. I think it's got a lot of potential, but I'm not hooked yet. I'm cautious.
Interesting.
So I knew I've been wanting to get involved with this, like I said earlier, over 20 years now. Ever since early movies like Lawnmower Man and Matrix and others, and I just wanted to see this become real, and I wanted to be able to put on a headset that could take me to some other alternate reality, and so I've been looking forward to this for years. I too have been interested in video games and movies and the creation of all these things, and our company has kind of been building up to this with all the different platforms that we've programmed and made games and made videos and content. So this is just a new platform to do it. I feel that virtual reality is really immersive and a really exciting platform to use. And then the augmented reality is kind of a separate thing. They are different, and there's been some talk of one of these or both of these being like the next internet, that we had the invention of the internet, we had the invention of smartphones. Some people say the virtual reality or augmented reality is the next huge thing, and I kind of believe it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that leads to kind of a really perfect segue. So one of my favorite analogies in technology and being a futurist is we often, when we get a new technology, we do what we already know how to do with it. So when we got the internet, we did something we knew how to do, which was write letters, and we called it email. So I'm curious as to your opinions, as if we're sitting in that initial stage, oh my gosh, tools, wow, what are we going to do? What really is the future of our reality, and how fast are we going to get there? So Alfred, we'll start with you since we were chatting about it just a second ago.
Well, I agree. All new media go through two cycles of adoption. In the first one, we apply rules from previous media to the new media. And also there's a media hype because it's new, it's cool. A lot of pundits make bold statements, and what it tends to do is inflates expectations. Then you reach what's called the peak of inflated expectations. Everyone's disappointed, the promise was too great, hits the bottom, which is called the trial of disillusionment, and then you have what's called the slope of enlightenment. I believe it's during the slope of enlightenment where the true potential of a new medium begin to get explored. Until then, we are trying, people are saying, well, Facebook bought Oculus, so is it going to be Facebook in VR? And I think Mr. Zuckerberg and Palmer both have said, no, it's something different. Facebook sees the potential of VR beyond what we're doing on the internet, which is good news. I like to hear that. There's also a lot of unexplored dangers. Things aren't totally sure about neuroplasticity, the way your brain functions and learns. There's concerns that there'll be such a rush to put out technology that there'll be cheaper sets that don't take into account the stereophonic effect on your brain. Has anybody been to the Dali Museum and seen their new exhibit? I saw a lot of elderly people trying to use that. I didn't know if I should laugh or feel bad, but they really couldn't handle it. So there's still some physiological things that I think need to be worked out, which didn't really come with previous media. I mean, the internet came out, we weren't worried about these kind of things. So I think there's quite a few more hurdles we got to get through.
I agree that the technology is definitely in its infancy. So many of these things that we're getting are targeted just for developers right now, and so we are the earliest adopters, trying to prove what could be done, building prototypes, giving feedback for what the next generation should be. And so we do need to look towards what the future versions and consumer products will be. But if we're talking about where this can go in the future, first, the Meta company with their Meta glasses, that company even made a bold statement that in 1 year they want to get rid of all the monitors in their whole company, and everybody's going to use their computer with just their Meta glasses. So that's pretty amazing that they can eat their own dog food and make that happen real soon here. It's that good that you can work on it already as your full-time job. And then further in the future, they're saying that this could end up replacing cell phones as well. This is a longer-term prediction. This is probably more than 10 years from now, but it sounds crazy right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if we could have some kind of real simple, elegant glass solution that's got our holograms, phone, computer, everything walking around with us, and we don't need computers and mobile phones all the time.
Gabe, what do you think the future of our reality is?
I think we're at an interesting stage right now where we are very excited and tempted by sci-fi. You know, everyone looks at things like Minority Report or Iron Man, and they want that to be their reality. So at one end of the spectrum, we have experiences that are really over the top and use really virtual reality in a bit of an excessive way. And then the other side of the spectrum, we have companies that have just floating rectangles in your view that you can interact with. And I think we're kind of trying to understand how to meet somewhere in the middle to make VR something that is mainstream and goes beyond just early adopters. And it's a bit of a catch-22 because you need the content that appeals to a broader audience, and you also need to have users willing to step into that world. So if you think about the future, I see it all as a vehicle for connection and transportation, not necessarily physical transportation, but you look at a picture of refugees in Syria today, and it kind of takes you to that place. How much more powerful would it be if you could be there and not only see it in all 360 degrees, but eventually feel things that happen there, like maybe it affects your senses beyond sight, and I think that level of immersion is definitely what we're craving in VR.
Yeah.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Of course.
When you talk about this immersion, and you mentioned Syria, there's some very good documentaries. One of my favorites is a company called Burst that makes some amazing 360 videos, and I mean, we've all watched many documentaries over our lifetime, but when you watch one of these documentaries in virtual reality and you're sitting there on a dirt floor with a family and of refugees, and they're eating and passing food, and you feel like you're sitting there, and you look behind and you look around, it's an amazing feeling, and you do feel empathy with these people that are right in front of you talking to you, and it's something that you can't achieve with regular video. That it's really a powerful medium.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I think it's very easy to hate an idea or ignore an idea, but almost impossible to do that with a face or with a feeling and a tactile immersion. How fast do you think we're going to be at that point? What's our runway here? Are we 2 years out? Are we 10 years out? Are we 20 years out from no computers? Obviously, we're all just speculating, but that's the point of being a futurist and being in this industry. So if you have any guesses, Gabe, you look ready.
I think we're a bit far from it. I would say it won't be analogous to smartphones for another maybe 5 years. There's plenty of room for enthusiasts to adopt it, starting maybe with gaming, maybe eventually with film and other kind of highly produced content. Mm-hmm. But it's not until everyone has access to creating that type of content that it can really seep into the mainstream. And I think it requires not only more advanced hardware for consuming that media, but also for creating that media. 360 cameras are just starting to come out portable enough and powerful enough to really be able to capture that type of content, which is why I think it's so exciting, intercepting this technology and this wave of this new medium 5 years before it becomes mainstream. It's something that we don't often, an opportunity that we don't often get. You know, if somebody would have asked you, start designing websites 5 years before the internet becomes mainstream, that's a gig I'd like to get.
Yeah.
So I'd say Moore's Law will take care of the hardware constraints. It really comes down to consumer behavior and the application of the technology. The fact that studios like HD and my own can produce content for this already, and we're not Disney by far, says a lot that, you know, once the content gets out there and smart people start finding ways to apply this in education or in documentary filmmaker, it will drive adoption. So I would say 3 to 5 years before you start seeing this in every home, so to speak. But that would be a limited application. You're not going to see the experience you showed where they were running through the warehouse with guns, and that's more of a theme park type experience. You're sure not going to see danger rooms and holodecks and stuff in people's homes in 3 to 5 years. But the actual being able to put on a headset, I think is pretty soon.
I agree too. I mean, this technology is moving fast. Even in the last couple of years, they're just every few months there's a new generation, a new step up with this hardware. So it is moving fast, but I think it probably will take 3 to 5 years before virtual reality is in many households. The augmented reality is a little bit further out. We're excited that we get to play with the very first generations of these products starting right now this month, but it's at the very, very infancy. So the augmented reality, the early adopters are going to be more like 5 years from now, and for that to replace computers and cell phones, it's going to be, like I said, more than 10 years from now.
Yeah, I'll add to that it's a bit of a spectrum. VR kind of experiences. You covered it all the way from like the HoloLens and all these really advanced headsets to Google Cardboard. And the way I think about it is just headphones. You know, you have earphones that are pretty disposable that you wear around, and you have a couple in your house, and that's kind of analogous to the cardboard. And you have kind of like sound isolating Bose headphones that you use to really, if you're really an audiophile. So that's kind of the spectrum that we have today, and what the industry is starting to push is for it to become so kind of mainstream or ubiquitous as headphones are today.
Wow, I like that. One of the things that I love about VR is there's so many opportunities for unique experiences, and experiences in a way that we haven't actually thought about them before. And one of the most compelling experiences I've personally had was I was down in New Zealand with a company called Point Zero, and they're working with one of the leading pharmaceutical companies there on a skin cancer fighting drug. And they created an experience where you actually go through your own human body and watch this drug as it kills the cancer inside of your system. And I took the headset off and cried. Like, it was just one of those moments where I was like, whoa, this can actually save lives. And I had not thought about virtual reality as a life-saving instrument in that regard until that experience. So I'm very curious, given that you guys have probably had dozens more experiences than I have had, and whether you've had the experience or not, what do you think is the greatest quality of life enhancing thing about virtual reality?
I'll just have 2 examples.
Yeah, no, you're on it. No, you're good.
So one that I experienced recently was a really kind of powerful public speaking app that kind of trained you to speak in public, and it kind of transported you there. And the second one that I was really impressed by, I don't really have a PC or a politically correct way of saying this, but people with lazy eyes, they have a way of kind of splitting the 2 displays so that one of the displays is kind of like adjusted, and it trains people to kind of correct their eyesight through VR. So those are 2 like very awesome
That's super
applications.
cool. Yeah.
You should have gone last. I don't know if I could beat those two. I'm really into history and education, and there's a lot of opportunity for educational apps. It's one thing to read about the Roman Senate. It's another to stand in a simulation of it and hear a speech or see Lincoln speak, really travel through time. I think that's going to get people much more interested in learning, although it's been warned that kids should not use the headsets yet, so I don't know. We've got some things to work out there. There was an early example of a quadriplegic artist who could no longer paint, and somebody rigged up a set that by his eye movements he could create a digital paintbrush, and it allowed him to continue to paint. Again, back to what I said, it's all about the applications. The technology is absolutely amazing, and it's figuring out, well, it requires actually so little input from the human, you can do so much with it.
Absolutely. Sean, what about you?